Chapter 16. From the position of the cam on the APC, it was nearly impossible to tell exactly what it was they were headed towards. The screen showed nothing but water and sky, close enough in colour to be nearly indistinguishable. It was like moving through a void. Billie mostly kept her gaze on the motion sensors and the Doppler screen, where she had something to report. We've got 6 roughly spherical objects, approximately 20 meters apart and arranged in a circle. Largest measures maybe 30 meters high. It's centered inside the others, she said. Sounds like Adcox's nest, said Wilks. Yeah, Billie said. She pushed her hair off her sweaty forehead. The APC's coolers could only do so much against the wet heat of the planet that pressed in on them. They wobbled and bumped as the APC made its way slowly through the water. Level my ass, Wilks said. I'd like to see Brewster's idea of rough terrain. It all felt like a dream to Billie, and her heart thumped hard and loud enough that she was surprised nobody noticed. Wilks, this is supposed to be a scouting trip, right? Why are we headed straight to her nest? Shouldn't we find somewhere safer to observe? Look around. Where would you suggest? I'm just saying that we can scope things out a little more thoroughly. Try a probe. Listen, kid. We're not going to drive this thing into her front door. We're just going to pull up nearby and see what happens, okay? If the probes we had were worth a shit, I'd send one. But none of the robots we've got can do the job. Billie nodded, but continued to worry. It doesn't feel good, Wilks, she said. His lips tightened. Yeah, he said. I copy that. Billie sighed. She and Wilks had been here before. Not this place, but this kind of situation. Somehow, that felt a little comforting. Between the two of them, they'd pulled off some pretty scary deals. ETA 2 minutes, she said. We'll be ready, Ripley called out from behind her. Billie wanted to go back and talk to Ripley about her fear. Maybe there was some kind of psychic thing going on. Suddenly, the APC ground to a halt with a jarring crunch. The unit tilted to the left, throwing Billie back into her chair. What the fuck? Began Falk. Ripley held up her hand for silence. Wilks, Billie, what do we have? Billie ran the diagnostic. We've bent one of the axle struts, but I think that's it, said Billie. Her voice sounded shaky. What did we hit? Said Adcox. Wilks called out over his shoulder. Don't know. Something underwater. Treads lifted and we lost traction. Hang on. Let me see if we can rock back off it. The APC's engines rumbled. It took a few seconds, but Wilks managed to pull free of the obstruction. Okay, we're clear. Then, take a look on the screen. Ripley looked up at the vid screen and inhaled sharply as the picture panned left. Oh my God, Adcox said. They were less than 100 meters from a huge, round orb sitting in the murky water, pinkish grey in colour, with strange lines crisscrossing the surface. Like veins, thought Ripley. A long, thick cord connected it to another orb, larger. The one they were closest to was the length of the APC, and maybe twice as high. I think we ran over something connected to that thing, said Wilks. Billie, is anybody home? Ripley asked. No movement. If they're around, they must be asleep. Look, I think we should back off a little. I don't feel so great about this. Ripley frowned. We're here. If they heard that knock, and they're still not coming, I think we'll be all right for a moment." They all watched the screen with intense concentration. Nothing happened. Ripley half expected to see a horde of the giant insects launch themselves from behind the weird orbs and attack. She looked at Billie. The girl was watching the sensor readouts closely. No movement. It was Falk who broke the silence. "Let's go have a peek. What say?" He stood, picked up a comm set, hooked it over the back of his head, and reached for a boot to one of the Meccano's suits. Dunstan also stood. Ripley shook her head. "I think we should wait. Maybe nudge one of them with the APC first," she said. "We don't know what we're dealing with here." Falk continued to suit up. "Isn't that why we came?" he said. "To find out?" Carvey got up and helped Dunstan buckle on one of the lift boots before he grabbed a third suit. "It's a good idea," said Carvey. "We'll just hop out and have a look. We've got weapons, we're armoured, and the APC's right here. We're out there 5 minutes, tops." Ripley thought about it. They knew what the aliens were capable of. They weren't going to be charging out there ignorant of what could happen. And Carvey had a point. They were as prepared as they were going to get. It was no crazier than the whole mission, which made less sense every time she thought about it. "Okay," she said. "No," said Billie from behind them. "Ripley, don't let them go. This isn't going to work. Can't you feel it?" Dunstan stepped forward, awkward in the suit. Hydraulics whined, the boots clumped heavily as he moved. "Billie," he said, his voice calm. "This is a choice. We made the decision to come here. This is part of it." Something in his face, perhaps the acceptance of fate, stopped Billie from protesting any further. She turned and moved back to the front without another word. The 3 men, fully suited, stood by the door and looked to Ripley for their cue. They each wore thick vests with head protectors, jointed metal running the length of their limbs. Each carried standard military carbines, the same 10mm caseless weapons that Ripley had learned to use. "Listen to your sets," she said. "Billie is monitoring the cluster. Any sign of trouble, get back here. We don't want any dead heroes. Good luck." She paused for a moment. What else is there to say? Nothing. "Go," she said. The hatch slid open. Wilks felt the blast of damp heat as the door slid shut. The smell wasn't like he'd imagined, but worse, like rotten, poisoned food. The wind made the exposed edges of the hatch whistle. He breathed through clenched teeth and watched the screen. Billie was pallid and tense beside him, but she also watched the readouts carefully. Wilks wished he was out there with the others, but he tried to let it go. He was the best APC driver they had, and if anything went wrong, they'd want to leave in a hurry. "Falk, talk to me," he said. "We're moving towards it, maybe 30 meters away now. We'll stay on this side of it." Falk's transmission was clear. "Christo, it fucking stinks," said Carvey. "You're missing out, Sarge." "What are you bitching about? At least you can breathe." "Wish I'd thought to bring a kite. Wind must be gusting to 100 clicks out there." 115, Wilks said. He watched as the 3 men approached at the bottom of the view screen. "Okay, now we've got you on visual," he said. One of the figures turned and waved. "Hi, Ma!" Wilks grinned. Knock that shit off, Carvey. You're supposed to be part of a crack scouting team here. Trying to be funny to break the tension seemed a little strained, but it was something. The figures approached the sphere. Their boots rose and fell in the muck that came up to their knees, spatters of it blowing away in the gusts. They separated a few meters from the orb. Falk remained in front, while Dunstan and Carvey moved to the sides. Don't get too far apart, said Wilks. The three men stopped. Stay in sight of each other. There's goop all over this thing, said Carvey. Like, jelly. Seems to be emanating from the formation's core. That from Dunstan. What are these things? Carvey said. They're too big to be egg sacs. I hope they're too big to be egg sacs. Whatever the hell it is, it's oozing like a son of a bitch. I can almost see inside. He raised a mechanical limb to touch it. Billie gasped, and Wilks felt his heart catch. Oh, fuck! Movement! She said. Everybody get out of there, now! Wilks shouted. It's coming from inside the pods, said Billie into the comm. Move! Get away! The three figures on the screen stumbled back as the nearest pod opened like a giant egg sac, and a huge, glistening shape rose out from it. Adcox cried out from behind them. A queen-sized drone, bigger than any Wilks had ever seen, snapped out one powerful claw so fast Carvey hardly saw it move, and latched onto his head protector. The monster raised Carvey into the air like a child with a toy. Fuck! Jesus, get it off! Get it off me! Carvey's cries were cut off abruptly as the drone used its other claw and ripped his throat out. The creature tossed the handful of flesh away and pulled one of Carvey's arms off, tossed that away too. Oh fuck! So goddamn fast! Dunstan and Falk had barely gotten their weapons raised. We're coming! Ripley yelled into her comm, but the two men were already slogging quickly backwards towards the APC. Go, Wilks! I'm on the guns! Falk blasted at the drone. It dropped Carvey, screamed, and started towards him, hissing, then fell into the water as Dunstan's carbine joined the fire. They might be bigger and faster than normal drones, but they could die. Wilks jammed the APC into full throttle. Billie slammed her fist against the console. Fuck! Oh fuck! The other pods! Ripley was bringing the APC's guns online when she heard Billie. Come on! She shouted to Wilks. The APC lurched forward, only to hit another stop. The engine whined noisily. Dunstan! It was Falk yelling. Ripley looked up at the view screen as an alien leaped over one of the other pods and pounced at the teacher. He fell onto his back with a splash, absorbed the shock of the huge drone, and slammed his weapon into its belly. Falk struggled to get a clear shot as the APC suddenly moved forward again. Die! Shouted Dunstan. Nothing happened. His weapon must have jammed. He raised his free arm, used the mechanical clamp to hold the alien's head away from his own. It shrieked and opened its gigantic jaws. With a jerk, it shoved its head forward. The steel armor crumpled like paper as its inner mouth snapped out and speared Dunstan's face. Bright red splashed into the water, and the teacher fell limp. Motherfucker! Yelled Falk, and opened up on the drone. The crash of gunfire shredded the alien. The area around the fallen creature hissed and bubbled as its blood ate the water. What fell on Dunstan didn't matter. Falk disappeared from the screen as the APC came to a stop. Wilks! Shouted Ripley. Don't make me knock, for Christ's sake! said Fawkes through the comm. Adcock stood behind the door, weapon raised. Billie slammed the entry button, and Falk fell inside, gasping. "Close it!" he said. Ripley caught a glimpse of one of the creatures moving quickly through the muck. She put the gun tracker on it. Billie slammed the hatch button again. "Come on!" The monster loped closer, its limbs splashing the foul water against the front of the APC. Ripley said, "Too close to shoot. It'll spatter all over the APC." The hatch closed. "Emergency dust-off, now!" said Billie. She held her comlink headset in place with shaky fingers. "We can't put down at your current position," said Brewster. His voice was anguished. "We've got a Force 3 hurricane wind aloft right here. Get away from the nest, get back closer to the initial drop point." "Shit," Billie said. "Billie, are you okay? Where's—" "No time, Brewster," said Wilks. "Get moving, we'll be there ASAP." Billie discommed and turned to Wilks. The aliens were so much bigger and stronger than before. Before she could speak, something hammered against the APC wall, hard enough to dent the metal. Billie scanned the readouts. "3 of them," she said. The entire unit was lifted and tipped backward before it fell forward with a crash. The vidscreen went black and mud splashed the clear steel window. Metal groaned. Something snapped with a bell-like crack. "Wilks," Billie said, in barely a whisper. She looked at the readout without blinking, hoped that it was wrong. "Our internal cooling system just opened." Even as she watched, the temperature was going up. "It's going to get hot in here. Crappy warranty on these things." Wilks checked the monitor. "Ripley, we got some problems up here." There was no answer. Ripley belted the vest and nearly fell when the APC tipped. She picked up Fawkes' gun and checked the ammo read. Wilks shouted something at her as she searched the floor for additional magazines. Everything was rolling. The magazines slid under the supply compartment. "Ripley!" yelled Wilks again. She walked to the front in the bulky suit. Falk and Adcox leaned against the wall that faced the door, weapons ready. "Fuck this," said Falk. "Let's burn out of here." Wilks turned around in his seat. He looked Ripley up and down. "Jesus," he said. "You're crazy." "Just head for the drop site." "Can't. The manuals are shot. Steering just about locked. Our reactor took a knock. We can go straight for about 10 minutes and then we're talking meltdown. Got any ideas?" "Yeah," said Ripley. "Use the APC's guns and hammer those 3 outside. It won't matter if the acid damages the APC now. Seal the hatch and take off, full speed, as soon as I'm out. I need a couple of minutes to get to her nest." "And what are you going to do when you get there? Invite her to fucking tea?" said Wilks. "I didn't come this far just to let her slip away," said Ripley. "If I can't capture her, I can kill her. I have to try. Listen, it's been good working with you." "You are fucking crazy," said Billie. Ripley grinned and walked back to the rear hatch of the APC. Adcox followed, prepared to cover her. Wilks triggered the APC's guns. One of them was still operable. The uranium slugs shattered the attacking aliens. "Clear," he said. "At the moment." "Good luck," Ripley said. The hatch opened, and Ripley jumped out.